So next, we're actually going to create a workflow using the Subflow that uses the action that comes out of the box with the integration hub Jira spoke. So I've got my Subflow here, I've saved it, I've published it so it's available for me to use. So let's go ahead and create a new flow or a new workflow within ServiceNow. Now my example is going to be create Jira task from a story. And in ServiceNow, we have the ability to write stories in the Agile application, so I'm going to use that as kind of the impetus to create an issue or a task over in Jira. Again, we'll keep this in our global application scope. And to set up that trigger, I want any time that a story is created for it to follow this workflow. So I'll go ahead and add a trigger. We're going to say a record was created. And the table that we're going to look at where a record gets created is the story table. In ServiceNow, that's rm_story. And I don't want this to fire in my demo environment when my colleagues are doing demos, so I'm going to add a filter. And you might want to do this when you're testing and building just to be deliberate about what you're doing. And I'm going to check the short description to make sure it starts with Jira demo before I actually do this. So it's just a way to filter out. I could look at any field on the table to do that, but this is what I do when I'm just experimenting around or doing demos for people. So the next thing I want to do after I trigger is take some sort of action. And we're going to call a subflow, the subflow that we just made in order to create that issue, add the comment, and log it to ServiceNow. So I called that demo subflow. There we go. Demo subflow capability. Now it's going to prompt me for those inputs. Remember, we only asked it for 2 inputs, summary and description. And my story has that. My story has a short description and a description. So because that was what triggered this workflow, I have access to that record over here and all the data elements that are associated or related to that particular record. So let's go find short description. Here we go. Notice I'm not writing any code. I'm dragging and dropping short description over. Next thing we want to grab is the description of the story. Take that, drag it over, boom. Now the summary and the description are both populated, so that flow has everything, that subflow has everything it needs to run. Now in this particular workflow, I might want to do other things. One of those things would be to update the story to let it know which issue it's related to. So we're going to do an update record action. I've got update record, and the record we want to update is the story. So I grab my story record, drag it over, and now I can update any field on that story record that triggered this entire workflow. So we're going to update the correlation ID. Correlation ID is where we store foreign system keys, like an issue ID from Jira. I know that when I run this flow, that when it creates the issue, I'm going to get an issue ID back. That's right here on the right-hand side, coming from the subflow. So I've got that data element that I can pick up and drag over and drop, and now that'll populate the correlation ID within ServiceNow. The other best practice thing to do is go ahead and configure the correlation display so that we know what that ID actually relates to. We're just going to call it Jira. So this is how in ServiceNow, on any table when we're linking to external or foreign systems, we use correlation ID and correlation display to tie the two things together. Think of it as foreign key and what that foreign system is. Okay, so now it's done. We've added our issue ID and our identifier. The next thing I want to do is on the story record, I want to say, hey, an issue has been created in Jira, or a task, I keep saying issue. So we'll go ahead and we'll do a comment. So we'll search for comment, and it will pull back. I'm actually going to use add work note because I don't really want this customer visible. So we'll add work note, and we're going to do it on the story record. So again, I grab my story record, drag it over. That's the task I'm going to update. And then we're just going to say task, and then we'll do the number. Has been created in Jira. So on the ServiceNow side, if someone creates a story, it's going to create the task in Jira. We're going to update the task, and then we're going to add a work note to the story that the task has been created. So let's go ahead and save this. We're going to activate it, and then we're going to test it. Okay, so now I'm in the stories module of ServiceNow, and what I want to do is create a new story so that it will trigger that particular workflow. So if you remember, we wanted to add Jira demo to our short description in order for the workflow to fire, since I don't want this firing just when we're doing regular old demos. But we'll go ahead and put in a small short description there for Mr. Roosevelt and put in some further text. And that's enough for me to be able to save this form. And while that's being saved, I'll call your attention down here to the work notes. So part of our flow, look at how fast that actually happened. We've got task number 10041 that has been created in Jira, so we know our workflow is working. And let's go take a look at Jira and see what happened over there. There it is. So there's Jira demo Roosevelt's Man in the Arena. I've got my long description that I added in the particular story, so that got copied over. And I've got my comment saying this was the task created by ServiceNow, and now Jira and ServiceNow are in sync. So now you've seen how we can use the Integration Hub Jira Spoke to take advantage of flows, subflows, and actions within ServiceNow to do things in the ServiceNow platform and to do things in third-party applications.